Hello, I'm back. Okay, well, I don't think that you guys realize that I went anywhere, but just to fill you in, for the past 2 weeks, I don't know what happened, but I got really sick out of nowhere, and I thought maybe I just need to lay down for a day or two. I'm gonna recover. It ended up lasting nearly 2 weeks. I tried my best to keep up with the cases while I was in bed, but I just haven't been able to get as much done. But no worries, I am back at 1,000%. I feel so much better now. I am so ready to just dive back into so many different cases. I have a few really important ones coming to you guys very, very soon. We're currently working on a case with a victim's family member, and there's just a lot of videos that we're very passionate that are going to be posted very soon because we want them to be the best for you guys and for the case. And in the meantime, I didn't want to leave you guys without any videos, so I tried to get a little bit creative. I did try to film while I was really ill, and it was just not going to work. So this episode is going to look a little bit different. This is actually 2 pre-filmed episodes that went live on a separate channel of mine, maybe like a year or so back, but I don't think that many of you guys have seen it. But it's 2 separate cases we're covering in this video. One about ghost hospitals in South Korea. Now, the wild thing about that is it's not a paranormal case. It is so much worse than it sounds. And then we have the case of the Squid Games actor's son. His son was found mysteriously dead in the United States, overseas, and at the hospital, these people keep knocking on the door. Turns out they're called body dealers, and they come crawling in, begging the Squid Game actor, "Can I have your son's body?" So with that being said, we will be back on schedule on May 5th with new episodes every Wednesdays and Sundays, audio and visual here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. But thank you guys for understanding. And I promise I'm working so hard to make up for the time that I was sick. And let's get into it. Today, we're talking about ghost doctors. This is not some sort of weird urban legend of a doctor who died and now they just haunt the operating room and they're standing in the corner bawling their eyes out, and you wake up from anesthesia and you're like, "Hey doc, just wondering, why was there a random surgeon just crying in the room?" And they're like, "What surgeon?" And then you start pissing yourself. Like, this is not one of those stories. It's not about a doctor that never existed but is listed for surgeries at the hospital, or like scalpels that magically go missing. No, this is so much scarier. It's honestly terrifying. This happens in Korea, but it happens everywhere. So like, don't get it twisted. This is not just a Korean thing. Tae-hee Kwon, or I guess Kwon Tae-hee, he was 24 years old. He's rushed to the emergency room of the local hospital. Now, the ER doctor, he was expecting him. He had gotten a call from Tae-hee's plastic surgeon at around maybe like 11:30 p.m. that night. And this plastic surgeon is telling him, "Listen, we're operating on this patient. He's 24 years old. He's got low blood pressure, but he's still conscious. He's still talking to us. I don't think that he's in critical condition, but just to be safe, we're going to send him to your ER. We think maybe he needs a blood transfusion, but we're not really sure, okay? So just be on the standby." Now, the ER doctor obviously agrees, and he's like waiting. It's a slow day. He's like, "Where's Tae-hee," right? Tae-hee arrives, but when he steps foot, I guess he didn't even step foot. When he was rolled into the ER, everybody is confused. Everybody starts frantically scrambling. They're just panicked, and they're doing everything in their right minds to save this young man's life. And now you're confused. You're like, wait, the guy was conscious. The guy was doing fine. What happened? Well, that's what the ER doctor is asking. How could the plastic surgeon have been so calm on that phone? None of this makes sense. First of all, Tae had lost all consciousness. His heart had stopped beating for at least 2 minutes. And he was missing 2/3 of his entire blood supply in his body. What? 2/3 of it. Can you guess how much that is? Can you guess, like, in cups, I guess, or in gallons? How much do you think an average 24-year-old, like 150-pound male has blood? But it's about 1.5 gallons of blood in the body, and he lost 2/3 of that. It just didn't make sense to anybody in that ER because, I mean, first of all, this guy has not been in a traumatic accident. He wasn't in a car crash. Like, there were no signs of obvious trauma on his body where they're like, "Oh, well, that's why he's losing all this blood." He was literally in the care of a doctor, a plastic surgeon. So how does somebody lose that much blood during a plastic surgery operation? And why was the plastic surgeon so freaking calm when they called the ER? The whole thing is so unsettling, and more so because Tae was officially declared brain dead. And the next morning, his family, they're called to the hospital. And the plastic surgeons come too, the ones that operated on him. And this is so depressing because when Tae's brother was called to the ER, and again, I don't know the protocol. If you guys work at hospitals, please let me know. Let's say a family member is really sick in the hospital. Do you tell them it's an emergency or not? Because are you worried that they're going to get into a car accident? Are they going to speed? So do you downplay? Like what are the rules of that? Well, the hospital, they tell Tae's brother, hey, your brother's in the hospital, but his condition is not that serious. They just straight up say it's not that serious. He's brain dead. Yeah, so I don't know if it's like a hospital rule so nobody like hurts themselves or hurts others, like driving there, speeding or something. I don't know. So the brother just assumed that maybe Tae had gotten into a bar fight or something. Listen, it's not good news, but it's not life or death. He's getting into the taxi thinking, I'm going to fight my brother. Not physically, but I'm going to sit there and I'm going to scream at him because why is my little brother getting into bar fights and ending up in the ER? Like, he's going to be like, you're never going to do this again. Like, I'm going to be your chaperone. That's what he's thinking on the way there. But when he gets to the hospital, he's never going to have a chance to scold his brother or even talk to his brother. Because when he gets there, Tae is unconscious. The family, they're sitting there. We want answers. We don't know how this happened. What are you talking about? He lost 2/3 of his blood. That doesn't even make sense. Nobody seemed to have any answers. The hospital were like, we don't know. He was rushed over here by his plastic surgeon. He had 70% of his blood gone. We couldn't really help him. And the plastic surgeon is like, well, shoot, thanks for calling us, but it wasn't us. We did the procedure as normal. And we even have the CCTV footage if you want it, Tae's mom. You can have it because he was fine with us. We brought him here, and we don't know what happened here or on the way here, but something must have happened. Now, Mrs. Lee, Tae's mom, just had this feeling inside of her chest, like inside of her gut. You know those types of feelings where she didn't know if the plastic surgeon was bluffing. Like sometimes maybe the surgeon is like, we have the CCTV. You can take it if you want. And maybe they're kind of expecting you to say, no, it's fine. Like, I trust you. Because I don't know why he gave the CCTV. The CCTV is so important later. So she takes the CCTV. She just knew that something in that footage was going to be important. She snatches it right up, goes home, and watches over it like 500 times. She literally sat there writing down every millisecond and logging down what happened, like time-stamping everything. The footage was literally in the operating room. So she's replaying it over and over, trying to figure out what the hell went wrong. And I mean, so many things went wrong. She will never get this picture out of her head, but at the end of the plastic surgery for Tae, he was left on the operating table in the operating room with a nurse. Actually, it wasn't even a nurse. It was like a nursing assistant. So he's like under anesthesia. He hasn't woken up yet. All the other surgeons, they have left, and a few nurses are in and out of the room, and nobody's checking his vitals.
Why?
I don't know. I guess they don't care because the nurse that's sitting in that room, she's on her phone. She's checking her makeup. She's texting people. Listen, I just want to say nurses are amazing and they will save your life, but not this one apparently. She literally just could not care at all. She heard this noise coming from Tae, this like dripping noise. And she looks down and Tae is literally bleeding out onto the floor from his jaw. She goes and grabs a mop and mops the blood up. You're like, okay, that makes sense, right? But she does this 13 times. This is not a leak from the ceiling because it's raining and your ceiling isn't great. This is not like a river leak. Like, this is someone's blood that's continuously coming out of their body, and you're not putting more blood back into the body. But you're mopping it up 13 freaking times. I don't even think you have to be a nurse, a nursing assistant. I don't think you have to even have much common sense to know that that's dangerous. Later, the anesthesiologist comes into the room like an hour later and is like, hey, did he wake up yet? Why isn't he woken up? And then they start freaking out at that point. So you're like, how did the surgery even go wrong to the point where they're done operating on him, but he loses 2/3 of his blood? What kind of freaking plastic surgeon are we talking about? So I think to understand the whole story of the ghost surgeries, we have to talk about who Kwon Tae is, okay? Now, Tae was a really nice guy. Everybody that knew him describes him to be warm and humble, and he was the type of son that would slave away in the kitchen on his mom's birthday to cook some seaweed soup, myeokguk, which is a Korean tradition. You have to eat this on your birthday. Now, I don't know if it tasted good, but he would spend all day cooking that for his mom. He did well in school. He valiantly served 2 years in the Korean army. Honestly, this guy was a high achiever, and he just really wanted to do well in life. But here's the thing about Korea. A lot of people think that South Koreans are super vain and that we are just all about looks and we all want to be the plastic surgery capital of the world so we can look like your favorite K-pop idol. That's not really the case, okay? I can see why people might think that because of the plastic surgery statistics in South Korea. But listen, your average South Korean is not trying to get plastic surgery so that they can be a K-pop star. They're trying to get plastic surgery so that they can get a work promotion at their corporate job. And you're like, that's dumb. That doesn't even make sense, okay? Because South Korea, the job market is so intense. It's not like here, okay? You have like 5 companies that everybody wants to work for. Like that's it. You live your whole life trying to get into these 5 companies. And then from there, you're trying to get promoted in these 5 companies. But let's say everybody has the same grades as you. They have the same extracurricular activities as you. What's going to make you stand out? You know the pretty privilege? You know the halo effect? When someone is pretty and smart, it seems like they're even prettier and even smarter than someone who's just really smart or just really pretty. So, I mean, the whole thing is nuanced. I mean, it's kind of here in the US too, but a lot of people in Korea will get plastic surgery right after they graduate high school. This is like their going to college present. Typically, it's like double eyelid surgery, maybe a rhinoplasty, things like that. So Tae, he has the grades, but he always felt like his jawline was not that attractive. The conventional beauty standard in Korea is to have a V-shape, slim jawline, like really sharp, kind of pointy almost, right? And listen, you don't even understand. And then my mom would tell me in the shower, you have to get your knuckles, okay? Make sure your jaw is wet so it's not. And then you just gotta scrub it 100 times like this, really hard. And I'm like, I think I am bruising myself, mother. So he felt like if he fixed his jawline, he would have higher promotions at work. He was also bullied throughout high school for his prominent chin. That's what everyone says. You got a big chin. So he would even edit his pictures before he posted it online. He would slim down his chin, which just breaks my heart because like high school bullies. And honestly, he just thought overall this was like a smart choice for his career. Jaw surgery is incredibly painful. It's a pretty common procedure. The risk of dying is pretty slim, but it's, I knew someone that had it. And she said she would not wish this pain on her worst enemy. How do you think you get rid of some jaw? I mean, it's not like you have a ton of like fat just hanging out right here on your chin, you know? It's not like it's a bunch of skin left over. It's just your bone. So they go in there, peel off your skin, and they literally like grate your bone like you would a block of cheese. They just saw off your bone and then put your skin back on, and then that's jaw surgery. So for 2 years, he saves up as much money as he can till he has like an extra $5,600, and he was so excited to get his jaw done. He told his brother, he told his mom, and they're like, no. Absolutely not. You look fine. We love the way you look. But Tae was not going to change his mind. So he secretly books a consultation at a well-known plastic surgery clinic that literally specializes in jawline surgeries. Like other plastic surgeons are known for their double eyelids, their nose jobs. This guy was known for his jawline surgeries. It was in the richest area of Seoul, Gangnam, which is like Beverly Hills. Even the whole office, like the front, the lobby, everything looked super nice and super modern and just amazing. During the consultation, Tae feels more at ease. This famous, well-known, well-respected doctor told him, super simple. So simple, you don't even have to worry about it. You're going to get discharged the same day. I'm going to go in there, shave off some of your jawbone to change the shape. I know it sounds really intense. It should only take me like 2 hours-ish. I mean, if I'm not shaving too much off, like I get in there and I'm like, ooh, this is perfect, then maybe like an hour and a half. That's about it.
That sounds alarmingly fast.
So Tae knew that it was going to be painful, but he was excited. He booked the surgery with this doctor, and he paid a premium to have this doctor work on his face. And on September 8th of 2016, he goes into the hospital alone. And again, the doctors are like, super easy procedure. Don't even worry about it. Like, you're going to be able to ride the train home. You're going to take the subway home. You can get a taxi. You're going to be all bandaged up. Don't get me wrong, but good job. Like, so easy. Obviously, that's not how it happened. So Tae is put under general anesthesia, and the timeline of his surgery goes something like this. And it's weird. I know it's going to sound like I'm just listing off times, but it's so important to this whole thing. 1 p.m., the plastic surgeon that he signed with, the one that he consulted with, goes in and starts the operation. He cuts into his jawline, and almost exactly an hour later, he leaves the room. That's already kind of alarming. Why'd you leave the room? Are you gonna wash up and get sterile again when you come back? Where would you even go? Why did you leave? But that's not even the alarming part. When he leaves, 1 minute later, a new random doctor walks into the room. Now, the medical charts and records for Tae don't list this doctor anywhere. This is not the assistant doctor for the surgeon. This is not a resident that's training underneath this plastic surgeon. Nothing. It's almost like this doctor doesn't exist.
AKA the ghost doctor.
Yes. So they walk in and just starts operating on Tae. I mean, you would think that this is some sort of imposter that broke into the hospital and wants to like torture patients or something. So they work on Tae's jaw for like 30 minutes. Then the main doctor walks back in and then leaves again around 3 p.m. So this is 2 hours after his surgery started, which according to the main doctor, the procedure should have taken just 2 hours. But both the main doctor and this ghost doctor, they leave the room and he's like open. He's not all sewn up yet. They leave the room and the nursing assistant comes in and they stay in the room for like 30 minutes. There was not a single doctor in the room during the time that he was technically open and he was under anesthesia. I'm sorry, nobody wants to be in that situation. That sounds like a nightmare situation. Then the ghost doctor comes back, finishes the surgery, and leaves around 4 p.m. Now, this is 3 hours after the start of the surgery. Then the main doctor enters the room to dress Taehee's wound and just leaves. They all leave. From there, he's essentially wheeled into the recovery room at 7:30, and for the next 3 hours, the nurse just sits there expecting him to wake up soon and like mopping up his blood casually 13 times off the ground right underneath his head. And she's not alarmed at all by this. All the doctors just like left. They actually went home for the day.
What?
The ghost doctor and the main surgeon were like, oh, I work a 9 to 5, guys. I gotta go. So they left. But the anesthesiologist was going to come back. I don't know if he went out to eat dinner or something, right? But the anesthesiologist, he comes back and he's like, oh, why isn't he waking up yet? He's been out since like 1 p.m. It's like, what, 9 p.m. now? That's weird. Anything I should know about? And the nurse is like, well, yeah, I did mop up his blood like 13 times. So now the anesthesiologist starts freaking out. He rushes him into the OR and is trying to find a vein to put the blood into because he obviously needs blood because he lost 2/3 of his body's blood, right? But he can't find a freaking vein. And I was sitting there reading this like, you are an idiot. You don't deserve to be an anesthesiologist. And I was panicked. I called my sister and she said that maybe this is common sense, I didn't know this, but she said that when you lose blood, so your veins, all they do is pump blood into your heart, to simplify it, right?
Your heart pump blood into the veins.
Yeah. Your heart pumps blood into the veins and then the blood goes back into the heart. You get it, right? It's like a whole system. Well, it's not efficient if, let's say, the tube is this big and you have so little blood. It's going to use so much more pressure to move that blood along. So what happens is your vein shrinks to try to make it a lot more efficient for your body to pump the blood. Now, what that means is it's going to be really hard to find a vein, which, I mean, if you guys have ever gotten your blood taken and you have pretty rough veins already, like the pain of people trying to find a vein when you've never lost blood already. So he can't find the freaking vein. Now, he calls the main surgeon and, he starts freaking out and they're like, we got to call the ER, but we got to make it seem like it's not our fault. So they call and they're like, we just need to bring this guy in. He's still conscious. Don't worry. The shady part is, without the CCTV, if Tae's mom didn't get that, she would have no idea who this random doctor is and they would never have been held accountable. not even the main surgeon would have been held accountable. A ghost doctor is, especially it happens in plastic surgery, it's common in Korea, but everywhere. It's when you use the fame of a plastic surgeon, the ones that are Instagram famous, the ones that everybody is like, ooh, I heard that celebrity got their work done there. The one that everyone's like, the influencers are coming in and like doing the stories with them. Well, that doctor is going to do your consultation. They're known for how good they are with da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, okay, I'm willing to pay this premium. Dr. Tomato is the best of the best. But when you're knocked out from anesthesia, Dr. Random will come in and operate on you. You're like, why? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Well, a lot of people will hire attorneys and are willing to pay more to get the named partner on their case versus a random associate because you feel like you want their expertise, you want their skills, their talent, right? But think about how many surgeries that famous plastic surgeon can do in a day. Did you know in plastic surgery, in the business of plastic surgery and a lot of other private doctors, consultations are actually the moneymaker? It's not actually the surgery. Sometimes consultations are more important than the surgery. Because when you first go in and you get a free consult with like a plastic surgeon, that's when they're trying to sell you.
They're trying to close the deal.
They're trying to close the deal. So this is actually the most important moment inside of that building because once they close the deal, your money is their money. So the surgery, I mean, it's already too late. Obviously, they don't want a bad reputation, but they have your money. Now, consultations are super important, and everybody wants a consultation with these famous doctors. Now, you got 24 hours in a day. 8 of those hours they need to sleep. I'm sure they only work 5 days a week. Sure, they can charge more for being a famous doctor, but how much more? It's just not lucrative enough. So a lot of shady doctors have come up with a way around it. They'll take on a patient, promise to operate on them using their skill set, and when the patient is knocked out on the operating table, they'll start the procedure, slip away, and a ghost doctor will come in and do most of the work. And while the ghost doctor is operating on patient A, the main famous surgeon goes to patient B, starts the whole process over again, and then to C and to D, and they can do a bajillion surgeries a day. And then when all is said and done, the ghost doctor will f*** off like a ghost that never even existed. They'll never be listed on the records because remember, the patients are paying a premium and only want the main doctor operating on them. Now, the crazy thing is, the ghost doctors aren't just residents of plastic surgery. Because that kind of makes sense. Residents are like doctors in training, especially at like teaching hospitals. They work under attending doctors and they will practice on patients while the attending doctor is watching them the whole time. But this is not the same case. Sometimes these ghost doctors are just freshly qualified plastic surgeons. Sometimes they're dentists that are looking to get into plastic surgery or they need some quick side hustle money. Sometimes they're nurses, or in some extreme cases in South Korea, they're medical equipment salespeople. Medical equipment salespeople. Like you're trying to sell me a scalpel and now you want to operate on my patient. Can you imagine? This is super illegal, by the way, but who will know? I mean, if everyone at work is benefiting, if every employee benefits from keeping this secret and they're all making money, the patient is knocked out, how will they know? So in South Korea, the plastic surgery business is booming. It's about a $10.7 billion industry, and it's almost incentivized for these clinics to be run like factories. Like, let's talk about Park. So Park was a patient at one of these clinics. He was a 26-year-old student, and in 2012, he too wanted jawline surgery. But the ghost doctor that performed his surgery barely knew, like, what they were doing. Park was left mutilated, suffering from partial paralysis in his face, and he was just devastated. He said he went to Dr. Sang because he was very famous. I mean, he did think that it was a little bit strange that Dr. Sang was like, oh, well, I have an opening next week. Because this is like one of the most famous jawline surgeons at the time. So he's like, what do you mean you have an opening next week? I thought the wait list would be months, maybe a year. And he's like, oh, don't worry. He was like reassuring Park. Oh, don't worry. It's like someone canceled on me. So it's a cancellation. And you know what? It's an urgent situation. I'll fit you in. I don't know, maybe it was that or something, but Park felt like the whole thing was weird. Maybe he's being crazy. Maybe he's being paranoid. He didn't know. So he hid a tiny little recorder in his pocket. He got one of those audio recorders, put it in his pocket. And when he gained consciousness and he realized that his face had been botched, he replayed the audio recording and he was so freaking traumatized. Because first of all, the main doctor leaves and is like, okay, bye now, ghost doctor. You have fun. And he's like, what? Who is this doctor that I didn't sign up for? So the main doctor is gone. And on top of that, the assistants that were assisting the ghost doctor, they were literally physically poking at Park's body and making fun of him for not having enough muscles.
What?
This is something that gets me so freaked out about surgery. Because I actually heard if you are in an emergency situation, and this is not to fearmonger people, but I heard a lot of waivers that you sign, technically they have the right to check your whole body, even if they don't suspect something's wrong with your body. So sexual assault while patients are under anesthesia is actually more common than you think, is what I read. I mean, if I'm dying, so you gotta help me, right? And I know that there's majority good nurses and doctors out there, but I'm just saying. Anyway, Park said, being operated on was the worst decision of my life. I have lost sensation in part of my chin. My nose is stunted, and it's literally the opposite of everything that I was promised. So he reported Dr. Sang, and the trial is underway now. But there was another instance, December 2013. A high school girl named A, she was brain dead after plastic surgery. She was getting a double eyelid surgery and a nose job, a rhinoplasty. And people were so shocked because it's how do you accidentally become brain dead from that? This is the two most common procedures, maybe all around the world, but specifically in South Korea. These are not that dangerous. It's much less dangerous than a BBL. It sounded terrifying. People are wait, do I have to be worried? After investigation, it was found out that the main doctor that she thought was going to do all her procedures did her double eyelid surgery, left her alone with a nurse for 40 minutes in the OR. Then the ghost doctor comes in and he's starting to cut open her nose and he's like, wait a minute, why is her blood oxygen monitor off? That's weird. The nurse is like, I don't know. So he turns it back on and her blood oxygen level is rapidly dropping. The anesthesiologist wasn't even in the room. So they rushed to perform CPR. And in that moment, she probably could have been saved if she was rushed to a real ER in a real hospital. But the head doctor was scared that his practice would lose business. So he told the ghost doctor, just finish her nose job. He wanted him to perform a nose job on a dying girl that they knew was actively dying, because if she dies and they could blame it on she just wasn't compatible, this is so rare, it must have been a her problem. Or they wanted to do the whole, we finished up surgery and she was totally fine throughout the entire surgery, but then after the operation she went into critical condition. Which again, it would still calm the nerves of everyone, because it's almost like saying, oh, she was a very rare special case, she couldn't handle the situation. Which I don't know how it works, but I'm sure there's 9 million ways that the ER could figure out that you're lying out of your ass. But by that time, it was too late. A was brain dead upon arrival in the ER. The police went to investigate the plastic surgery clinic, and they were so shocked at what they found. Inside of the clinic, she wasn't even in a regular OR. Inside each operating room, you're only supposed to have one table. I mean, we've watched so many medical shows. I'm sure you've watched Grey's Anatomy. You know what it looks like, right? But this clinic had 2 to 3 operating tables in one room with a curtain dividing the tables. Super illegal, by the way. But the doctors did this so that they could just move around and perform more surgeries. The ghost doctor is oh, then I need you here and here and here, and then go faster. And then the main doctor is going from patient A to B, C to D. I don't even know how that's sanitary. I don't even know if you're breaking sterile, regulations.
Exactly.
The sterile zone or whatever they call it. It's some sort of factory line. I mean, this clinic was straight up a surgery factory. Even when the police went and saw the head doctor's schedule, he was scheduled on 5 different surgeries at the same time. And each surgery was slated to last around 5 hours. I mean, it's literally impossible unless this guy has a time machine. So as these stories start making headlines, a ghost doctor comes out anonymously to expose the industry. And he said what's fascinating is that if you perform the surgery and you help consult the patient, you are talking to the patient, closing that deal, you get 5% of the total surgery profit. If you just consult with the patient and you close that deal, you get 3% of the surgery profit. If you do no consultation and you just perform the ghost surgery, you get 2%. You get less by doing the surgery versus just doing a consult.
That's insane.
Because closing the deal is more important than, I guess, their quality of work.
And that's not a lot of money they're getting paid.
No.
Like 5%, that's like, imagine the surgery costs like a few thousand, right? Let's say 5,000 for a surgery. 5% of 5,000, so $250.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is like doctors who want training. Some of them aren't even doctors. They just like want to be trained. And I guess they're just happy to have free training. Plus they get a little hustle money on the side, which is so alarming. Like,
For plastic surgery, that's so scary.
Like, you're fixing my face for life. No, thank you. So essentially, they were saying that a lot of these clinics are set up by investors who put money into a clinic and they pick the most charismatic doctor that they can find. Not even the most talented, just the one that is the most TV presentable, the one that looks like an authoritative doctor, the one that talks really well, the one that is smooth talking, not the awkward one that's really good at what they do, but is not a people person. No, they pick the charismatic doctor. They get celebrity endorsements. That's their investment. They have this doctor go on all these TV shows talking about plastic surgery. Maybe they start a YouTube channel. Maybe they work with some influencers. They build that trust. And then when people come out as new patients, of course, they want to see this famous doctor. And the famous doctor will basically sit there and do consultation after consultation after consultation, have them sign the papers, pay the money, book the services, and pretend like they're the one doing the surgery. But they're not, because they've got a basement full of ghost doctors. The ghost doctor said it's like literally a basement where you just have pagers and you just you don't even know ahead of time. Or am I going to do a nose job today? Or am I doing a jawline surgery? You just get paged, you enter the operating room and they're like, hey, fix up this jaw. We're just going to shave it into a V. Wow. And then once they're done with that, they go back into the little basement room and wait for another call. Which is crazy. Also, side note, I don't know why I'm getting this flashback, but like when I first started YouTube, a Korean plastic surgery company reached out to me and was like, we will fly you to Korea if you vlog your experience getting plastic surgery with us.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will opt out. Which anyway, again, this makes it seem like I'm against plastic surgery. I'm not. I'm just against ghost doctors and like shady plastic surgery businesses because they don't protect the patient. They literally hurt the patient. Now, anyway, there's no schedule. These ghost doctors will literally randomly operate on whoever the needs them. So they'll just come in the middle of a nose job and just figure it out. Just figure it out. Then the head doctor and the investors will make tens of millions a year if successful, which they would never be able to do if the famous doctor actually did all of the surgeries themselves. I think that's insane. A doctor came out to say to run a successful plastic surgery hospital, it's not even about how skilled you are. It's about how good you are at consulting and marketing. So why does South Korea do this if it's illegal? Someone who orders or performs an unlicensed medical act is subject to a maximum of 5 years in prison or a fine of $44,000, which is a drop in the bucket for these head surgeons that are profiting tens of millions of dollars a year. For example, a doctor who asked a nurse to perform double eyelid surgery and nose surgery at least 90 times got a 3-month suspension and no fine.
Suspension?
Yeah, he just like couldn't perform surgeries. Not that he was to begin with for like 3 months.
So he took a vacation.
Yeah.
Right?
And another doctor who asked a medical device company employee, like a salesperson of medical devices, to perform at least 58 surgeries, got a 3-month suspension. Nothing even happened to their license.
What is going on?
So obviously, I mean, the laws are not as relaxed here, but I mean, it's so hard to even prove that they did anything. That's why they get such a small little fine. Now, anyway, back to Tae's story. He was operated on by a ghost doctor who was unqualified, literally didn't even have a plastic surgery license. And he had studied to be a general doctor in medical school. He was left unattended for hours at a time with no kind of doctor around. He was left with nursing assistants who had no care that he was bleeding out in front of them. Because all the doctors decided to go home. Even the freaking ghost doctor went home. So Tae's family, they're furious when they're watching the CCTV. His mom said, I don't think that any of these doctors, there were 3, the main doctor, the ghost doctor, and the anesthesiologist, not a single one of them checked how much he bled. Not one freaking time. And then the plastic surgeons had the audacity to try and fake medical records, and they tried to lie that they provided a blood transfusion, which I guess they forgot that they gave Mrs. Lee the CCTV, or maybe they didn't think that she was going to study every millisecond of it, but she proved that they were lying. And despite Tae dying, the plastic surgery clinic remained open and bragged about how not a single patient was hurt in their 14 years of operation. Which was a complete lie, but the clinic argued that Tae actually died in the hospital and the ER was at fault and not them. So yeah, Tae's mom wasn't going to let them do that. She actually found Tae's bucket list at home, and he was 24 years old when he passed. So he had his whole life ahead of him, and he had written on there as number 15 of his bucket list that he wanted to do before he died was to make a difference in the world. So Mrs. Lee, she felt like that was her duty as his mother. She felt so angry, like for not only just what happened to him, but what happened to so many people. Like she was finding these online forums of people anonymously saying they're so embarrassed because even though plastic surgery is so common, you don't really talk about it in Korea. It's not really openly talked about. That's why idols act like they never got surgery, even though like, you know, that they probably did. Kind of like here, where the Kardashians are like, we never had a BBL. What are you talking about? So no one wanted to come forward, even if they suspected ghost surgery had botched their face. So she's like, wow, there are people suffering in silence because they don't have a CCTV. So she was insanely lucky to have given the CCTV footage. She would never have had a court case without it. So she fought the plastic surgeons. In May of 2019, she won $381,000. Which honestly doesn't sound like a lot because we always listen to settlements in the US that are in the millions. But this is quite a lot for a South Korean case of death, which is so depressing too. And the 3 doctors are now facing criminal charges of manslaughter. And in May of 2022 of this year, the head of the plastic surgery clinic, the one that was supposed to perform the surgery, he was given a fine of $5,600 and sentenced to 3 years in prison.
That's the amount of money that he paid.
Less, yeah.
Basically refunded the money that he charged after killing someone?
Yeah, and got 3 years in prison for killing someone. And okay, listen, I get it. Sometimes doctors are put in really tricky situations where the patient is already dying and they're operating. This was not one of those situations. This was not when the doctor did everything in their power and the patient still died. This is like straight up, he had no care for life. But that wasn't all. Mrs. Lee was not happy about this. She spent literally every waking moment of her life outside the parliament in South Korea because she wanted change. Each day, she would be out there just mandating CCTV be in all operating rooms. She wanted it to be called the Kwon Tae-hee Bill. Doctors vehemently opposed this bill. They said, whoa, if you do this bill, we won't be as comfortable saving lives.
Why?
People were like, yeah, why? The public was suddenly like, wait, that just makes me feel more gross. What are you talking about? They also said, no, the patients don't want this because we would lose the trust in the patients. Like the patients would be like, why do you need a CCTV? And everyone online was like, hi, fellow patient here. We're fine. We want a camera in the operating room.
Yeah.
So what? The bill finally passed and it was called the Kwon Tae-hee Law, requiring CCTV in ORs, and South Korea is actually the first country to do this on a national level.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she did it.
Yeah, she did it. She did it. There are exceptions. So you can't have operating cameras in emergency operations involving high risk to save a patient's life, which makes sense because in those situations, there's no right or wrong thing to do. It's such a gray area where you're just trying everything to save this patient's life because they're dying actively. So to be criticized, I can see why from a doctor's perspective that's really dangerous, and even from the patient's perspective. So those are the exceptions, and in training purposes, which I don't know why that's an exception. Because wouldn't you want to record it anyway because you're training so then you can show it to other students too? Weird. Now, a lot of people believe that this law will make sure that no sexual assaults are happening, or at least decrease it, because that's a huge thing too. Yeah, so that's freaking great. And also, the older I get, the more I realize the world kind of sucks. I don't know what to say. Like, the fact that this isn't already a thing, and the fact that, like, hospitals can be so shady just kind of sucks. I was talking to my sister the other day about the ins and outs of a hospital, because she was a resident at one point, a resident pharmacist there. It's so shady. Think of a hospital as like a Walmart. Because at the end of the day, it's about business. It's not even about your life. But I'm sure you already knew that if you live in the States. There are a lot of stories. I can't believe we're talking about this again. But there are a lot of stories coming out about the past and or scandals about the Squid Game actors. And sometimes I feel like the real stories about some of these actors is worse than the show itself. Which, like, how can it be worse than a show about contestants fighting to stay alive, Hunger Games style, while they fight over a lottery-sized jackpot in a building-sized pig? Okay, if you haven't seen the show, it's just as ridiculous as it sounds. I'm not even exaggerating. So this is Lee Sang-hee, and he recently jump-started his career again with his supporting role in the Squid Games. So he was number 17 in the show, and I feel like his character gets most of the screen time near the end. He's not one of the main characters. So he's a glass factory worker, and he was helping the main cast cross the bridge. Remember where the bridge falls?
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe he dies.
In the game? Or
in the game.
Okay.
Well, in 2016, before Squid Game came out, Mr. Lee and his family were on a Korean reality show called Unanswered Questions. It's kind of like 60 Minutes, like an interview, but a little bit more casual. But it's not a fun reality show. It's usually where people come and they talk about serious controversies or unsolved mysteries that have happened in their lives. And in this episode, the Lee family opened up about the weird, strange, and unjustified murder of their oldest son in 2010.
형님 저희 근황올림픽 출연하셨을 때 얘기하셨는데
네.
되게 응원해주시고 좀 이렇게 힘주시고 이런 분들이 굉장히
네.
많으시죠.
네. 그분들이 날 이렇게 살게 해주는 거죠. 그분들이. 예. 다 이것을 며칠에 걸쳐서 그걸 보면서 계속 읽고 또 읽고 되새김질을 해가면서 그래서 진짜 그렇게 내 일처럼 예, 형제처럼 그분들 때문에 사는 거.
In 2010, Jin-soo, I'm going to call him Jin, was the oldest son of the family, and he was 19 years old in 2010. Now, he had spent his whole life in Korea. I think that he had vacationed and went abroad a couple times, but, you know, primarily that was his country of residence. His dream was to go to the United States to study. Both his parents, they want him to succeed. They want him to chase his ambitions, but at the same time, it's their firstborn child. They want to go to the other side of the world. I mean, you're going to be a little bit nervous. You're going to be a little bit stressed. Jin's mom especially was taking it really hard. She felt like, at least in her eyes, he was still just a kid. Like, he wasn't ready for this crazy life change. And add to that, it's a 16-hour time difference. It's not even like he's living in a different hour. He's living in a different day from her. But he wanted to go study in LA, and the family did have family there. So he wasn't going to be completely alone. He was going to be living with his uncle. So after Jin left, every single morning, Mrs. Lee would wake up, and the minute that she opened her eyes, she would say a little prayer for Jin. One morning, she prayed that she would see her son soon. She just wanted to know that he was happy and safe. And completely out of left field, she said she doesn't really believe in stuff like this prior to this, but she saw Jin's face. Not just in her vision, like really saw his face. Not just a picture on her phone. She saw him walk through her bedroom door. And it was so bizarre that she genuinely thought that she was hallucinating. She's sitting there like, oh my God, do I need to take meds? Do I need to go to therapy? Because what is going on? Why is my son walking in through my bedroom door?
Maybe he came surprise her?
No, but it was just like a really eerie feeling where he wasn't like, hey mom, surprise. It was just very eerie, and she felt like her mind was playing tricks on her. So she blinked, and he was still there. It was just the strangest thing, and it sent a shiver down her spine. And what's worse is that it didn't feel like a good sign. He didn't seem happy. Suddenly, whatever or whoever was in front of her, he opened his mouth, and blood started dripping out. And before he faded away, he said, I love you, Mom. And immediately, Mrs. Lee, can you even blame her? She freaked out. She called her family in California, and she just had this really sinking feeling, this bad feeling that every bone in her body, every fiber of her being was telling her that something was very, very wrong. It was around 1 p.m. in California, and Jin's mom said that Jin should be in school by now. But when she called a relative, they said, Oh my God. I can't believe you just called. I was about to call you. Jin was on the way to school, but we literally just got word that for some reason, he's on the way to the hospital. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what happened, but apparently there was a fight between Jin and a white football player, and Jin's been injured and he's being sent to the hospital. So
That is some mother intuition.
that's what I'm saying. And I heard, okay, I know some people might not believe in this, but I heard mother's intuition is so strong. I wonder how it works.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear more about these stories
Yeah.
about the mother intuition. Like, wonder
Because in
what is
so
there-
many cases.
How do you explain that, right?
Did you know a baby thinks that they're a part of the mom for 6 months?
What does that mean?
Like a baby after being born genuinely thinks that the mom and the baby are one unit. They don't distinguish the mom as like a separate unit. So maybe there's like some sort of connection that's left behind, but it's so weird.
Yeah.
How do you even feel something like biologically speaking? Yeah, what is the scientific research of this? I need to know because it happens in so many stories and I believe it. Like I believe it fully.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's weird. So anyway, she makes that phone call and now she's like, are you serious? Like, what is happening? After the initial update, the news only got worse. It was almost back to back, like just gut punches in the stomach. By the time that he reached the OR, he was brain dead. And it was just devastating. Just 15 minutes ago, Mrs. Lee had woken up praying for a good day and she had seen her son walk through her bedroom door. And now she's been told that her entire life had been ripped apart and her son is brain dead in California, which is half a world away, like on the other side of the world. So immediately they start making arrangements to fly to California, but it would take a full 48 hours for them to get out there. They needed to book the flight. The flight itself would take 11 hours. And I can't even imagine what those 48 hours felt like. I can't even imagine. Just imagine sitting on a plane where you can't pace around and leave and cry for 11 hours, knowing that your son is brain dead in the hospital. You can't even call them for 11 hours because you're on a plane. Like, I can't imagine that level of helplessness and stress. So when the family get to California, they were met with a slew of reporters outside the hospital. And Mr. Lee immediately felt alarmed. The reporters were asking the couple, what made you decide to donate your son's body?
What?
And they were so confused. Like, what do you mean we're donating his freaking body? Like, why would you think that? Why would you say that? We literally just got here from California or from Korea. Who even told you that? But they're not trying to argue. They're just trying to get to their son. So they're like, what? What are you saying? They rush inside the hospital. And inside the hospital, the same thing, okay? The doctors informed the family that Jin was brain dead. The odds of him ever waking up from his coma or functioning like a human were basically non-existent. But that's not all. The respiratory system that was keeping Jin alive was very expensive. The family would have to cover it if they needed to keep him hooked up to the machines. So it was the hardest decision any parent ever had to make. And with a very heavy heart, the family cut off Jin's life support. And I don't know what you want in those moments. Like, I don't know if there's anything in the world that will bring you some semblance of peace or like closure. I'm sure there's nothing, but what they definitely wanted was some quiet. But immediately, people started walking into the room asking if they would donate Jin's body. I mean, why not, right? They're thinking, okay, well, if we donate his organs, he could at least save lives, and why wouldn't we? I mean, it feels kind of good. It's like he's giving life in a sense, and his body will be out there. You know, his organs will be saving people. It's a good idea. It gave the family comfort. So yes, they told the people with the clipboards that they would donate Jin's organs. But right before they signed the contract, a nurse pulled Mrs. Lee aside. Like, she was like, psst, come here. She glanced around nervously, and she said, wait, we have to go somewhere without cameras. So Mrs. Lee is like, what? They get somewhere, and she quietly asks, do you know what you just signed away?
Did she sign or not yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
almost. What are you talking about? We're donating his organs. That they're not here for organ donation. You're donating his whole body. That's what you're signing off to. You're donating his body to science. Literally everything. You will no longer have his body. It's not just his internal organs. Everything. His brain, his skin, his joints, his bones. His whole body is going to be gone. You will have no one to bury at the funeral. You're donating his whole body for science. But that's not the point. Your son was likely murdered. So if you donate his whole body, you can't have an autopsy to figure out what happened.
Wow.
Nobody told Jin's mom this.
Thank God for someone
Yeah.
with like,
Like,
Wow.
I get it, you need to donate bodies to science because that's how the people in the medical field advance and that's how we get better healthcare and we get more experience and knowledge. But at the same time, he was murdered. Like, you would never
But I don't-
do that. Donating someone's body to science is one thing, but the fact that you do it in such a weird way where
Yeah.
that you know for a fact that they think you're just donating organs and they're gonna get their son back to bury and rest in peace, but you're tricking
Yeah.
them essentially. Like, it's really fucked up. And there's a whole thing about it. Okay, but anyway, Jin's mom was so taken aback, she had no idea. Like, that's what they were signing up for. Nobody made it clear for her. Sure, you could say it was a language barrier, but nobody made sure that she knew that it was a whole body donation versus an organ donation. So it's said that a lot of the times, whole body donation is to be studied for science. A lot of the times, medical students will practice on cadavers. So later on, they're well equipped to be doctors. And I don't know where you guys stand on whole body donation. I know most people agree with organ donation, but they want to bury their loved ones. I know there's a lot of spiritual people out there or religious aspects where having a body be at rest after death is so important. So all of those I get. But what's weirder is that, he was murdered. They need an autopsy. Oh, which side note, did you know whole body organ donation is not really federally regulated? It's a bunch of brokers that go out to hospitals. They look for vulnerable people. They pretty much sell you. They're really aggressive for you to sign away the rights. And then they sell those cadavers, they sell those bodies to medical facilities.
Wow.
Like, they sell them to universities.
So they're like corpse dealers.
Yeah, they're literally corpse dealers. There's not much regulation on who can and cannot be a corpse dealer.
What?
So they will go into hospitals harassing people.
I wonder how much they sell like a body for.
I know. It's so weird.
Wow.
Like, the fact that, like, you would imagine these things are regulated. You would imagine that, like, the hospital is doing it in a very respectful way. Like, you would never imagine a corpse dealer showing up at your most vulnerable moments in grief.
Just the inside story and
Yeah.
these things behind like medical hospital. Just so uneasy.
So uneasy. Like, the more that you read up on hospitals, the more it really is just a cash cow. Like, that's all it is. And I'm not saying about the people. I'm talking about the people running the hospital, not the healthcare
Operations,
workers.
yeah.
But the operation of it is so scary. So Jin's family, once they find out the truth, they did not want to donate Jin's whole body. They would also not donate his organs either because you need to have the organs intact for an autopsy. And this made the donation people very, very angry. Which again goes to the fact that it's not federally regulated. It's not people that have the best interest of families and people. Because you know what I mean? If you were looking for cadavers for medical reasons, you would say, I totally get why
Why
you
are
wouldn't
they
donate.
here? These
Why are
dealers.
they
Why are
here?
they here?
I guess
Are
they
they
just
call upon?
assumed. I think they like scout hospitals, I'm assuming. And I think they assumed because they're not good at English and they're not residents here. And to bring Jin's body back to Korea.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with the
No.
other party.
No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
okay.
Yeah.
That's because that's what I was thinking. Like, are they trying to get rid of something? or-
Yeah, it's so weird though. It is weird, maybe, because it gets fishy, okay? So again, I'm not saying that we should be against whole body donations. I'm just saying, like, the way that it works is kind of shady, and there's gonna be bad people in this business. And definitely, you need to read all the terms and conditions for something like this. And they're just preying upon the Lee family because maybe it's like they don't speak English, they don't want to bring their baby back to Korea, which is like, what an assumption to make. So they're getting mad at the Lee family, the donation people, yelling about how they already wrote up the contract and saying things like, you can't back out now, you promised, we printed the paper and everything. Jin's family said it was so bad that they had to lock themselves in the hospital room. Even nurses were shocked and surprised at how aggressive they were. And if I'm not being mistaken, it seemed like they were thinking, truly, oh, these foreigners, it's going to be easy. Eventually, the donation vultures, they backed off, and Jin's body was sent in for an autopsy. Now, his cause of death was determined to be a result of brain hemorrhaging caused by blunt force trauma to the head. So immediately, LAPD starts treating Jin's death as a homicide. Now, there were some weird things that got lost in translation. Jin's mom had heard a white football player on the phone. Remember how a white football player was involved, but nobody ever said it. Even the family member that was on the phone with her was like, I never said a white football player. So there was no white football player involved.
Is there even a football player?
It's like a soccer player. Yeah, so it gets
Okay.
really weird. Now, the truth slowly starts coming out, which was that Jin had gotten into a fight with another Korean student. And let's just call him Alex for the purpose of this video. His identity is withheld. Alex and Jin were friends, but they weren't close, allegedly. Like, they had same classes, they hung out here and there, but they were never the ones to be, like, attached at the hip. There was no particular tension. There was really nothing going on between them. They were just regular friends, you know what I mean? Now, even for Jin's birthday party, he had invited Alex. And apparently, Alex was very Americanized. And Jin had grown up in Korea his whole life, right? So it's kind of a different culture. Now, apparently, at the birthday party, things started getting weird because witnesses saw Alex walk up to Jin's uncle and kind of slap his shoulder and say, hey. Like, hey. Like, put his hand on his shoulder and go, hey.
Disrespect.
Yeah. Which in America would be completely normal. In Korean culture, it's incredibly disrespectful, especially because this was in the uncle's house. Like, you're coming to somebody's house and you're not abiding by their customs and traditions. So the uncle is like, why, who do you think you are? Like, you're in my house. I don't care if you're still in America. You still need to show respect and manners. The party continued as normal, but it said that later, Jin wanted to talk to Alex about it. He felt some type of way about it. You know, the way that Alex treated his uncle, it seemed like, Alex, fine, you grew up in the States, but come on, you know that's disrespectful. Like, you should have known. You're around enough Koreans to know. So a lot of people believe that this small tension started boiling and started to build. Jin allegedly told Alex, on top of that, you need to treat me with respect because I'm 19 and you're 17. So friends who saw these interactions said Jin would always say it in a totally joking way. But it's unclear if Alex was triggered by it. I mean, this is a whole point of contention between them. I mean, it's a huge thing between a lot of Korean exchange students and Korean Americans. Like, I've experienced this because I guess I'm more considered like culturally a Korean American. And there would be times in high school, in my very white high school, where like a few Korean exchange students would be there and they'd be like, you need to call me 언니. And I'd be like, why? But you're not my 언니. Like, I got an 언니 and she's at home because she's my blood sister. You know what I mean? Who are you? So it was like a point of contention, right? But again, none of it would have turned out the way that it did. So that particular day, friends said that Jin and Alex were outside and they seemed to be bickering, but nobody intervened because it wasn't fighting, it wasn't yelling. It was just kind of like, you know, where you're both like taking jabs at each other. Surely they could handle it. These are adults. So they're just doing their own thing. Nobody pays them any attention. So we don't know what happened. But Alex said Jin threw the first punch, punched him. Again, there is no way to prove or disprove this. There are no other witnesses who came forward, so it's just Alex's word. Now, what we do know is that Alex was a soccer player, and he had his soccer cleats on, his shoes, the one with the spikes, and he confessed that he kicked Jin with those shoes twice in the face.
In the face?
That's what I'm
How
saying.
do you kick someone
Exactly.
in the face?
People say that's like some weird...
Like karate? Like what are you saying?
Like, it's not like the movies where you're that fast. I imagine that he wasn't that fast. I imagine that Jin had time to move because he wasn't drunk. There was nothing to block his reflexes.
You kick someone in the face when they're on the ground.
Exactly. But he said Jin threw the first punch. He didn't say he shoved or anything. He just kicked him in the face 2 times with his soccer cleats. And he said the whole altercation lasted 30 seconds before their gym teacher ran out and broke up the fight. Now, Jin collapsed on the way back into the school, and he never got back up. So the state decided to press charges against Alex, and Jin's family starts looking for attorneys. Now, this is really wild. The family had no idea where to find a good attorney. They also, you know, he's not the most famous actor in Korea, and especially in 2016, he really wasn't that well known. Like, he had his core group of supporters, but he was not like the main character of Squid Game. He was not on all these K-dramas. They couldn't afford a lawyer. But it was high profile enough that they get a Korean American lawyer calling named Larry. Let's call him Larry. And Larry said that he was an influential lawyer in the area with over 40 years of experience working with the LA legal system. And he was also well connected to high powered politicians and prosecutors. So he knew what he was doing. Larry even flew to Korea to meet with Jin's family and introduce himself. And he looked exactly how they imagined. He said the process was going to be, he would represent them in court, they would file a wrongful death suit against Alex and against the school, and hopefully get some money out of it. Now, Jin's family winced at that because they didn't want the money. They just wanted justice. I mean, yeah, money would have been helpful though, because again, they're not doing that well. They're not rolling in money, and they're facing a bunch of medical fees and all the flight costs, the funeral expenses. Yeah, money would have helped. And thankfully, Larry said that he would not ask for money up front. He would only take money if they won the lawsuit. So a few months pass by, nothing big happens. And the family is confused, like, hello, isn't this supposed to be where we're making progress? They reach out, Larry doesn't pick up. They get in contact with someone from the police. And the police are like, oh, we thought you had an attorney. They didn't let you know? We dropped the charges against Alex.
What?
So nobody bothered to even alert the family. Larry just decided, no money, not my job, not worth it anymore. What makes the whole situation more suspicious? Because what kind of lawyer does that? But it's after the charges were dropped, Alex moved to Korea.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if his parents were there or he wanted to get a clean break, but it just feels a little bit convenient. Nobody moves to Korea, especially if you're a Korean American. Your family has spent so much time and money immigrating to the US. Unless you finish college or you're going to college in Korea or you've secured a job in Korea, it's not the most standard thing to move back to Korea.
Out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere.
Okay.
So it feels a bit convenient, right? So the police also decided the whole thing was an unfortunate incident. They didn't even charge Alex with involuntary manslaughter, which is technically what you would charge him with because it wasn't premeditated murder, it was manslaughter. And to add to that, Jin's family was like, okay, well, if you close the case, then we want the records because we're going to find a new attorney. And the police said that the records were destroyed. Which is weird because closing a case, okay, it's weird, but it's not alarming. It's been done before. But destroying files, that's bizarre. One of the few surviving records reported that Jin had a .10 alcohol in his blood during the fight, meaning that he was considered legally drunk. This is weird because the hospital showed his level was .010. So again, that's a huge difference between one is drunk and the other one is sober. So either the police are being shady or they're that incompetent. Honestly, I think they're that incompetent. But the whole case just reeks of suspicion.
But how do you drop a case like that, though? Like,
yeah. So they were
no?
just saying, we looked at the facts and it was an unfortunate incident. We're not going to pursue it because no
Who's
crime
making the
happened.
call on this? Jeez.
That's what I'm saying. So 3 years later, the family wanted to reopen the case in Korea. They had Jin's body exhumed for a second autopsy. His body would have been decomposed quite a bit by this point, so it was going to be a lot harder. But they concluded that the cause of death was a heavy blow to the upper stomach with something like soccer shoes hitting his stomach. That would have caused a heart attack. That would lead to the cerebral hemorrhaging in his brain. So Jin did have hemorrhaging to his brain, but not because of a blow to the head, but rather to the upper stomach. So does that mean that Alex kicked him more times than he admitted? Or did he kick him in the stomach instead of the head? Which is, why would you lie about that? Because I feel like the stomach sounds nicer than the head. To be like, oh, I kicked them in the stomach sounds nicer than I kicked them in the face. It was just so strange. So Lee Sang-hee teared up and he cried. And he said, because he just felt so powerless about the whole situation, he said, I feel sorry for my son that his dad is so powerless. And I feel so sorry that even after death, he can't rest in peace because they had to exhume his body.
애비가 능력이 없어서 끝까지 하늘나라에서조차도 마음 편히 못 있게 마음 아프게 해서
호흡기 뛰면서 제가 진수를 끌어안으면서 1시간이 넘게 굳어가는 아이를 끌어안으면서 진수의 엄마를 용서하지 마. 나는 너를 부검을 해야 돼. 너의 진실을 내가 어떻게 죽었는지 그나마 부검이라도 해야 나오는 건데 다 굳어서 진짜 다 뻣뻣해. 그래서 내가 식어있는 아들 체온을 느끼면서 내려왔어. 그게 마지막 진수.
In Korea, the family sued Alex for wrongful death. The judge ruled in favor of Alex, saying there was not enough evidence for a conviction because, like I said, they couldn't even get police reports because they were destroyed. They had like a few things, but it was nothing. The family appealed the case in 2019, 10 years after Jin's death, and they won the appeal, which everybody knows how rare that is to win an appeal, especially in South Korea, but they did. And Alex was sentenced to 3 years in prison. And Jin's parents think about Jin every single day. Jin's dad said, I really want to see him again. Sometimes I still hear his voice in my head telling me, Dad, let's go have a drink together. And as an actor, you need to know this, and Dad, you need to do this as an actor. He always gave his dad all these tips, and he always lectured his dad.
1위니까
네.
넷플릭스 중에서도 지금 1등을 달리고 있으니까
네.
같은 반이나 뭐 자기 학교 친구들한테 딱 이거 우리 아빠 보여주면서 자랑했을 것 같거든요, 분명히.
난리 났죠. 지 아버지라고.
준수가 좀 봤다면
네.
아빠한테 뭐라고 했을 것 같은지.
아빠한테 술 한잔 하자고 했을 것 같아요. 걔는 똑똑해서 아빠 이런 책 안 읽었지. 아빠 게임 모르지. 배우가 이런 걸 알아야 된다니까. 그 아빠 이렇게 연기하는 게 올드에 어떤 때는 들릴 때가 있어요. 환청인 인 것처럼 지금 뭐 저 위에서 잘 놀고 있고 요즘 엄마 꿈에도 안 나타나요?
Lee Sang-hee was interviewed and he was asked, what would you do if Squid Game was real and you won the money? And he said that he would build an acting school so that actors like himself, the ones with no education, no connections in the industry, would have a chance. And that is the really, really shady murder of Jin.
Not to like have conspiracy, but why does it just sound so shady?
So there is a conspiracy that Alex's family was well off
Yeah.
compared to Jin's family. And now I don't think Alex's family was well off to the point where people are like, oh my God, they're so wealthy. This is like eat the rich situation. But I think it's also the victim was a foreigner who maybe didn't have as many roots and connections in LA.
Yeah.
And the LAPD are known for having some shady officers for sure that will take bribes.
Even the dealers at the that's if somebody was killed or murdered.
Yeah.
Obviously.
They're going to want an autopsy.
Exactly. At what scenario was somebody wants to give away the body?
And why were they already waiting at the reporters at the door?
Exactly.
And why were they already saying, oh, we heard you're donating your body when they didn't
Exactly.
talk to anybody?
Yeah, so that just brings me to think somebody probably called some people, bring them to the hospital,
Yeah.
and then the police just disregarding it, destroying the evidence or records.
It's
I don't
weird.
know. Just
I feel like, I mean, obviously Alex did something, but I also feel like he kicked him more times than he said, and probably in various locations. Is how I feel. And that's why he's changing his story. And maybe his family is more well connected or more well off and wanted to create this whole situation. I know it's a big conspiracy, but it just doesn't make sense. Otherwise, we're just looking at too many coincidences, like the body donator dealers, and then you have the LAPD just being so stupidly incompetent. Like, that doesn't make sense either.
and the lawyer is just what?
Yeah, the
Like,
lawyer's confusing, like wasting their time when they could have gotten a real lawyer who could fight this. And the thing about the blood alcohol level, it's such I know it seems like a typo, but when it comes to blood alcohol level, you can't have typos because you're not dealing with a number that's like 100 is drunk and 1 is not, right? You're dealing with like points. Everything is a point.
Yeah.
So the fact that they just like took away the 0 after the point, it's I feel like it's so weird. What are your thoughts on this case? I need to know in the comments.
응원 많이 해주셨던 분들이나 이 보고 계실 분들한테
네.
마지막 영상 마지막으로 인사.
끝까지 더 노력해서 여러분들에게 즐거움을 줄 수 있는, 행복을 줄 수 있는 영원한 광대가 되겠습니다. 고맙습니다. 잊지 않겠습니다.